After the players had completed a quest arc, they had a huge celebration in town. Everyone out and cheering and festivities and lots of alcohol. They left on afterwards to travel on to bigger things, bigger and better things. The journey as they were traveling from one town to another was fairly uneventful. In the first couple of days of travel, they met a pack of stray, hungry dogs, who, yes, they definitely fed all their rations to, and then rolled terribly at animal handling checks, but they didn't get attacked, so happy days. And they also found a destroyed house, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, of course, the house had been destroyed by uprising treants, which the party had heard rumours about while they were in town. It wasn't going to be anyone else, was it? After a bit of this and, other travelling of plain open fields, the ranger proposed a competition to the group. Hey, how about let's have a race on these horses that we totally promised to return to the stable owner? It's just a race, what could happen? It all went a little wrong when the sorcerer put forward the idea of wagering some money. We all knew what was going to happen from this point on. So, a start line and a finish line were designated, and up steps the ranger, sorcerer, and lizardfolk chef. The paladin and the cleric sat out, and the druid wasn't at this session, so also sat out. It would have been interesting if he had been there, because he'd recently been turned into a centaur by a crazy card-wielding gnome, but that's a slightly different story for another time. So, the three contenders stepped up, the paladin gave a countdown, and off they went. The ranger took an early lead, getting his animal companion Panther to give the horse a fright, and this time rolling a good animal handling check. The sorcerer also went off to a solid start, only falling slightly behind. The lizardfolk chef did not start so well. After a couple of rounds of this, the lizardfolk decides to try and use some alternate tactics to catch up. "I cast Firebolt," she began, "at my horse." So, I had to ask, what was the intention here? And the answer was to use a bolt of hot magic to speed the horse up. I could go into a really detailed story here and a long conversation about what we think would happen, but somehow the horse died. We cut back to the front runners, the sorcerer just behind, slinging spells toward the ranger, but rolling really, really poorly and missing every time. The ranger ducked, huddled down, seeing bolts of energy just whiz past, slam into the ground, and send dust flying up next to them. The ranger decides at some point here to try and tie a hunting trap to a rope and throw it at the sorcerer, which missed. I was a little bit sad about that. Back nearer the starting line, the lizardfolk, now with one dead horse and zero chance of winning, starts to chow down on their makeshift barbecue. The sorcerer, in one last-ditched attempt, casts Create or Destroy Water. He attempts to convince me that he could use the spell to create an ice container for the water and drop it on the ranger. As I'm about to just put a big nope into this, the ranger's player thinks it's awesome and wants to let it happen. So it did. As the ranger is about to cross the finish line and win, a huge block of ice falls out of the sky, landing right on the head of his horse. And so the ranger went flying. As he stood back up from this fall and turned back to survey the course, he's met with the sight of two very dead horses, one a lot crushed, the other being absolutely disgustingly devoured by the lizardfolk. And he just started crying. And further down the line, I think there was some discussion, and the Horse Mourners was picked as the name that best represented this group of people.